We had a South Carolina primary.
Big deal.
Just this weekend. Well, most of the time.
Most of the time is a big deal.
Yeah. We have some things that we can take from it, though.
No, listen, there's definitely analysis to be done.
Yeah.
The top line results are Donald Trump beat Nikki Haley. No surprise there. 60% to 40%.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm shocked she got all the way up to 39.5.
Yeah, this is better than we were seeing in the polling averages before the election.
Yeah. It seemed like the polling was like pretty accurate at seeing like the number that Trump was going to get. But it just seemed like all the undecideds broke for Nikki Haley.
Which makes sense, I think.
Right.
I also, one of the things that the exit polls did say is of voters who chose who to vote for in the last month, they overwhelmingly picked Haley.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. See, so she's coalesced whatever anti-Trump movement there is in the Republican Party behind her. Right?
Yeah.
She's effectively done that. And where she did well, it was exactly where we thought she was going to do well, right? She did really well in Columbia, and she did really well in Charleston. These are both Democrat areas, more educated areas, more independent areas, wealthier areas.
More urban.
More urban, more suburban. And she kind of, beat Trump there really well, really effectively. Trump lost a lot of ground in Columbia, and that kind of goes to show some of his weaknesses.
Yeah.
I don't think he's done a good enough job. I'm talking about Trump here. I don't think Trump has done a good enough job of bringing back those suburbanites who voted for him in 2016, but then switched to Biden in 2020. I think those Republicans are still looking for someone else.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to come back home to him.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. And I think in the exit polls, we do see that based on, first of all, education, right?
Yeah.
We see a big split with voters who had some college or less in their education and voters with a college degree. Haley won voters with a college degree by 9 points, where Trump won voters with some college or less 72 to 28.
Oh,
so
man.
he dominates those lower educated voters, but the demographics of this country aren't such that that's going to be enough for him to win in a general election.
And when you break that down by gender, right, white college women, Nikki Haley's winning the white college woman vote. And I tell you, white college women, those are the people who won Democrats the House in 2018 in a large part. Also, young people in 2020, right? That's a big part of it. But really, it's Donald Trump alienating women voters.
Yeah.
Right? And then we break down to the biggest question. This is the most important one. Fox News has been asking this question in their exit poll, and this is what I've been tracking over every state. So they ask this question: for each of the following, please tell me how you would feel if that candidate were the Republican Party's presidential nominee, Donald Trump. 61% would be very satisfied, 13% would be dissatisfied but would still vote for him, and 25% would be dissatisfied and would never vote for him.
Yeah.
A quarter is a lot
Yeah.
to lose out of your primary base electorate in the general election.
Yeah, and I think it's important to look at that specific question, because when we're looking at this exit polling on people who are voting for Haley versus Trump, it could be easy to just say everyone who's voting for Haley is going to make up the anti-MAGA coalition that Joe Biden is going to form. But we don't know that's true, right? Like, people that are voting for Haley can still definitely vote for Trump come the general. They are still both Republicans. But this gives us some insight into a really significant portion of this group that is voting for Haley, which, again, in South Carolina, an extremely red state, was 40% of the voters. They want to vote Biden. More than double, almost double the amount that would go back to Trump.
Yes. And so now with this finding here, we're saying 60% of Nikki Haley voters are not voting for Donald Trump in the general election in conservative South Carolina.
Yeah.
The conservative state of South Carolina. Put this in perspective, guys. In this electorate, we're talking about an electorate that was like 8% liberal, maybe like 5% liberal, 8% moderate, somewhere around there. Like, it was overwhelmingly a conservative, very conservative electorate. It wasn't like New Hampshire where 50% of people were independents, right? It's not that. We're talking single digit independent numbers, maybe low double
22% independents.
That's what you see in the NBC poll?
In
it was
Washington
different in the
Post exits.
Okay, it was different in the Fox poll, but that's fine.
Okay.
The point is, this is not supposed to be a up in the air state where 60% of your party's primary is supposed to go to your opponent or sit out.
Yeah, of course not. And the point is, what we really do see of Republicans, or the people who say that Republicans are conservatives, the people who we know are going to vote for Trump come November, that doesn't matter. That doesn't play into our analysis of how the November election is going to go, right? What we see in these independents and how much they're moving away from Trump that is prescriptive, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's a big deal. The one I do want to point out one other interesting result. One of the questions on the poll was, which of these 4 candidate qualities mattered most in deciding whom to support today? And Trump won for the top 3 of them. Fights for people like me, Trump won handily. Shares my values, Trump beat Haley pretty well. Can defeat Joe Biden, Trump won 55-45. But then 17% of respondents said that the number one quality that mattered to them was has the right temperament. And of those, 96% voted for Haley and only 4 voted for Trump. And I feel like that perfectly encapsulates his problem.
Yes.
Right?
That sums it all up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Who are that 4% that thinks he has the right temperament? And then thinks that's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy to me.
It is crazy. And I do wonder, because I don't want to conflate too easily, 96% voting for Haley instead of Trump. Do you think, I don't know, something like Biden's age or perceptions of his age sheds a good amount off of that 96 who might
probably
go over to him?
Probably. Okay. Listen, the main number we got to think about with regards to the general election is 25% Republican primary goers aren't going to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
And that's like not good. I want to put this in perspective. We talked about this on another episode, but in the Democrat primary 2016, very contentious between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, right? Very contentious primary. And at the end of it all, 10% of Democratic primary voters did not vote for Hillary Clinton, okay? And Hillary Clinton lost.
Yeah.
If we're talking about 25% of the Republican primary voters not voting for Donald Trump, he's just got a massive problem.
To me, that seems impossible for him to win.
It almost seems impossible. The only way that you can get around it and like spin this as an okay thing for Trump is if you say like, okay, too many Democrats voted in the South Carolina primary this year.
But that's
not what happened.
That's not true. We see from the exit polls, specifically the poll about party self-identification has a note, not enough respondents to break down details of Democrats.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they just didn't go out to vote in the Republican primary. Shocker.
Shocker. And this independent number, what did you say, 22%?
Yeah.
So that NBC poll, the 22%, that isn't even the highest independent vote share we've seen in the South Carolina primary. The highest independent vote share came in 2000 between McCain and George W. Bush. Okay. That was the highest vote share. I think it was like 29-30% independent. So now it's all the way down to 22%.
Yeah.
So the idea that, this is an improper sample, too many moderates and Dems voted in the primary. It's not what happened, guys.
Yeah, I wonder also if the Republican Party turmoil since Trump came into office is making more independents.
Yeah, I bet it is, because I think a lot of independents care about good governance over ideology.
Yeah.
And now the Democrats have really owned the good governance party.
Yes, which means those Republicans are kind of homeless as far as having a party.
Yeah. And now, so what does this mean for Nikki Haley going forward, right? If anything. I mean, there's obviously no path, but what Haley has said, she's going to stay in the race.
Yes.
Today, there was another Republican primary in the state of Michigan. It doesn't get that much coverage. It's not that big of a deal. It's an expensive media market. It's hard for Nikki Haley to run a good campaign up and through Michigan, but she's given it her best shot. But I think it's going to be important to see the exit polls coming out of a state like Michigan, because now we're getting to swing state territory. So we've seen 25% of respondents say they're not going to vote for Donald Trump in South Carolina. I want to know what that number is in Michigan.
Yeah.
That's going to be very, very vital in
Yes.
understanding, what is the swing voter thinking, right? In Dane County and everything. It's going to be really important. So now I think the only reason Haley is staying in is off the off chance that Trump ends up going to jail. I feel like that's the only reason she's there, or to make a name for herself, right?
I think staying in this long is effective at making a name for herself.
Oh, yeah.
I think I read an article recently that was like, if Trump loses, then Nikki Haley is going to look so good in being like, I told you so.
Yes.
And also, look, I was the clear alternative to him.
Yes.
Right?
And she's going to be she's going to be vindicated.
Yeah.
And that vindication is going to be good for her if she wants to run for president in 2028, which I think is absolutely possible given her record so far.
I do think she'll run, but I also think she'll lose the primary.
I also think she'll lose the primary, because now what she's done is she's betrayed Trump.
Yeah.
Right now she's a betrayer.
But the thing is, when she drops out, she's going to endorse him. So I think she might make up some of that lost ground.
I got to tell you, after watching her recent speeches, I am less convinced that she's going to endorse him. I'm like still leaning 70% that she's going to.
Okay.
but it's less and less each week. She just gets more and more vitriolic with the rhetoric. She goes harder and harder on him. And now she said flat out that she won't be his vice president. So that's something.
Okay.
But then she still says that she'll pardon him if he goes to jail.
Yes.
So it's like I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.